Throughout history, as humans occupied wild territories, we've continually found ourselves competing with large predators for space and resources. Sometimes, we've even become prey ourselves, like in encounters with polar bears. Back when agriculture and ranching spread across the northern hemisphere, our need for land and our innate fear of predators pushed animals such as wolves and brown bears into isolated pockets. Sadly, this led to these creatures disappearing entirely from many areas they once called home. Polar bears still roam across much of their original territory, but increasing human settlement and industrial activity, combined with climate change, are leading to more frequent and problematic encounters between humans and bears. Most of these conflicts naturally occur along coastlines of the polar seas and Arctic islands. However, as humans travel farther out onto the sea ice for travel or work, the likelihood of running into polar bears significantly rises. Hungry polar bears don't just scavenge near human settlements like coastal villages, Inuit hunting camps, weather stations, or remote communities. They're also more likely than other bear species to actually hunt humans. For perspective, black bear attacks on people are extremely rare. Brown bears attack humans more frequently. But often the victims survive badly injured, perhaps, but alive. Polar bears, however, are different. A polar bear attack on a human usually ends only when one of them is dead. When a polar bear attacks a human, the victim is often unaware of the bear's presence until it appears at close range. In the year 1961, Tony Overton and 3 teammates from a Canadian government agency were out on the frozen sea near Elliff Rings Island, working on a research project. Normally, the group spent the night inside a shared tent, but that evening, after one of the men accidentally spilled something inside, the others chose to sleep outside on the ice. The weather was calm, and they hadn't noticed any signs of wildlife nearby. Even so, Tony had a gut feeling. Before lying down in his sleeping bag, he placed his rifle within reach. To this day, he doesn't know why, but for some reason, he suddenly woke up at about 4 o'clock in the morning. With the summer sun keeping the Arctic brightly lit, he immediately spotted a white bear in the distance, roughly 200 feet away, and heading toward him. Tony went for his weapon, but the bear rushed in before he could grab it. As he tried to raise his arm, the animal caught him and began dragging him across the ice, tearing him from his sleeping bag and hauling him nearly 15 meters away. Tony shouted as loud as he could, trying to alert his friends. It wasn't until his third cry that Bill Tierlick woke up. Bill quickly understood what was happening, grabbed the gun, and prepared to defend them. By the time Bill had the gun in his hands, the bear had let go of Tony and was now charging straight at him. There was no time to line up a shot. Acting on instinct, Bill fired from the waiststand. The bullet struck perfectly, hitting the bear between the eyes and dropping it right at the edge of his own sleeping area. Later on, one of the other team members admitted he'd heard all of Tony's screams, but assumed it was just a bad dream and didn't get up. From a distance, the predator likely mistook the motionless figures for seals resting on the ice. But once it grabbed Tony, it must have realized it had caught something unfamiliar. This wasn't an isolated event. In another case, a bear stormed into a research camp and pulled a scientist from his shelter before it was brought down. In another case, a bear clamped its jaws around the head of a young Inuk hunter, attempting to pull him out. A second hunter, reacting quickly, rushed outside and managed to shoot the bear before it could escape with him. It's hard not to wonder why the bear didn't kill its victims instantly, the way it would with its usual prey, like seals. Maybe it was confused by the scent, unsure of what it had attacked. Whatever the reason, that brief hesitation made all the difference. It gave just enough time for people to fight back and survive. In another close call, Tom Smith, a biologist, and the legendary Inuk hunter, the late Jimmy Memorana, had just pitched their tent on the sea ice one cold evening in early April. While they were inside unpacking, Tom was crouched over his gear when Jimmy, in his calm and serious tone, said, "Don't move." Tom knew Jimmy didn't say things like that lightly, so he froze without question. In one swift motion, Jimmy raised his rifle over Tom's shoulder and fired. A polar bear, which had silently crept up and was tearing through the back of the tent, dropped dead instantly from a single, perfectly placed shot. In 2 other chilling encounters, as Ian Sterling once described, a large polar bear quietly tracked a person through the jagged ridges of the ice, creeping to within just a few feet. In both cases, Right before it lunged, the bear gave a faint, barely audible breath. One of the men it stalked was the renowned Arctic explorer Vilhjalmur Stephenson. The other was Jimmy Memorana. Both had spent enough time in the north to react without thinking. Their instincts kicked in, and they managed to shoot the bear in the split second that warning gave them. If not for that brief pause, soft breath that gave the attack away, neither would have survived. Scientists are particularly intrigued by this momentary pause when bears seem to blow out some air just before attacking a human. It's a subtle sound, but in the right moment, it can serve as a warning. That tiny puff of air might be the only thing that gives someone a chance to react and defend themselves. I doubt they do the same when going after seals. Seals move too fast for any hesitation. A quick breath like that would probably cost the bear its meal. But with people, especially out in remote areas, it seems like the bear is second-guessing for a split second, almost like it's making one last check. Maybe it's using its sense of smell to confirm what it's about to attack. Maybe it's sensing that this prey is different, possibly dangerous. It's fascinating to think that even a polar bear, one of the Arctic's top predators, might get confused, and that pause, however slight, can make the difference between life and death. The point of these stories is that one always has to be alert in polar bear country. Or, as an Arctic explorer once said to me, if you don't keep looking, the bear is gonna get you.